When it comes to managing diabetes effectively, a well-planned diet is absolutely key. Now, we all know vegetables are cornerstones of healthy eating, right? But you might be surprised to learn that some of them can actually derail your blood sugar control if you're not careful about which ones you choose or how much you eat. So, in this discussion, we're going to uncover 5 common vegetables that, despite their generally healthy reputation, could be a bit problematic for those of you managing diabetes. 1. Potatoes. First up, let's talk about potatoes. Potatoes are a real staple in so many diets all over the world. We love them because they're versatile and, let's be honest, they're definite comfort food. However, if you're managing diabetes, potatoes can be a significant concern, especially certain types and how they're prepared. You see, they're a prime example of a starchy vegetable with a high glycemic index, or GI. Now, the GI is simply a measure of how quickly a food causes our blood sugar levels to rise. Foods that are high on this GI scale get digested and absorbed really quickly, and that leads to a fast and often sharp spike in blood glucose, which is exactly what people with diabetes are trying to avoid. It's interesting because different types of potatoes do vary a bit in their GI, but most of the common ones, like white potatoes and russet potatoes, rank pretty high. For example, a boiled white potato can have a GI around 82. And get this, instant mashed potatoes can go even higher, sometimes over 90, keeping in mind that pure glucose is 100 on that scale. Even sweet potatoes, which are often suggested as a healthier alternative with a lower GI that can range from 44 to 78 depending on how you cook them, still need careful portion control because of their carbohydrate content. And how you prepare potatoes really makes a huge difference to their impact on your blood sugar. Roasted or baked potatoes might seem healthy, but they still carry a high GI. Mashed potatoes, particularly if they're made with added milk and butter, can be very carb-dense and will quickly raise those glucose levels. Now, the preparations that cause the most trouble are definitely the processed varieties. Think about French fries, potato chips, and other commercially prepared potato products. These aren't just high in carbohydrates and GI, they're often loaded with unhealthy fats and sodium too. Frying, for instance, really bumps up the calorie density and fat content, making them a poor choice for your overall health, and especially for heart health, which is often a big concern for people with diabetes. So, when it comes to potatoes, portion control is absolutely paramount. A small plain baked potato might be okay for some, but larger servings, or potatoes eaten as part of a carb-heavy meal, can easily lead to those unwanted blood sugar spikes. Just to give you some perspective, a medium baked potato can pack around 30 to 40 grams of carbohydrates. So, for effective diabetes management, minimizing or very carefully managing how many potatoes you eat, especially the processed kinds, is a really crucial dietary strategy. 2. Corn. Next on our list is corn. We all love corn, right? It's often enjoyed sweet and juicy, especially in the summer, but it's another vegetable that those with diabetes need to be a bit cautious about. While corn does offer some fiber and nutrients, its high carbohydrate content and moderate glycemic index can present significant risks for blood sugar management if you're not eating it thoughtfully. You see, corn is mainly a starchy vegetable. This means a big chunk of its calories comes from carbohydrates, and these carbs convert directly into glucose in your bloodstream. To put it in perspective, a medium ear of corn can have about 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrates. That's similar to a slice of bread. The glycemic index of corn usually sits in the moderate range, typically between 55 and 65, and this can depend on the type and how it's prepared. Sweet corn, for instance, often has a GI around 52 to 55 if it's boiled. Now, while this is lower than potatoes, it's still high enough to cause a noticeable jump in blood sugar, particularly if you eat a lot of it or don't balance it with other nutrients. When we look at fresh, canned, and processed corn products, there are some important differences. Fresh corn on the cob is usually your best bet because it's unprocessed. Canned corn can be okay too, as long as it's packed in water and doesn't have added sugars or too much sodium. But be careful with things like creamed corn or other processed corn dishes. These often have added sugars, fats, and starches, which really ramp up their carbohydrate load and glycemic impact. And then there are corn-based processed foods like corn chips, corn syrups, which are everywhere as sweeteners, and some corn cereals. These can be particularly problematic, offering very little nutritional value while heavily impacting your blood sugar. So how can you incorporate corn more safely into a diabetic-friendly diet? Well, portion control is absolutely key. Try to limit your intake to a small serving, maybe half an ear or about half a cup of kernels. This can help lessen its effect on your glucose levels. Another great strategy is to pair corn with a source of lean protein and some healthy fats. Why? Because protein and fat can slow down how quickly you digest and absorb carbohydrates, leading to a more gradual rise in blood sugar instead of a sharp spike. For instance, having a small amount of corn as part of a balanced meal that includes something like grilled chicken and a leafy green salad is much better than eating a large portion of corn all by itself. By really being mindful of how much corn you're eating and what you're eating it with, you can better manage its potential impact if you have diabetes. 3. Peas. All right, let's move on to peas. Peas are often praised for their fiber and nutrient content, including vitamins A, C, and K, so you might think they're a completely safe and healthy choice. However, just like potatoes and corn, peas are also considered a starchy vegetable. And what does that mean? It means they contain a significant amount of carbohydrates per serving, which can definitely be a concern if you're working hard to manage your blood sugar levels. Now, green peas do have a lower glycemic index, around 45 to 50, compared to potatoes, but their carbohydrate density still means you need to pay attention. Just a half-cup serving of cooked green peas has about 10 to 15 grams of carbohydrates. While that might sound manageable, it's easy for those portion sizes to get bigger, especially if peas are a favorite part of your meal. The form you eat your peas in also makes a difference. Fresh or frozen peas, when they're cooked simply, keep more of their nutritional value and are generally a better choice than heavily processed options. However, dishes like split pea soup can be particularly tricky. Even though split peas themselves are nutritious, soups often concentrate the starches. Plus, the recipes might include other high-carb ingredients, or they might be served in large portions, leading to a pretty substantial carbohydrate load. Canned peas can also be an issue if they have added sugars or sodium, so it's really important to read those labels. And those processed pea snacks, like baked pea crisps, they might sound healthy, but often they're no better than potato chips when it comes to processed carbohydrates and added fats. So for those of you managing diabetes, sensible serving sizes are essential when it comes to peas. It's more accurate to think of them as a carbohydrate source, rather than a free vegetable like leafy greens. If peas are part of your meal, you might need to adjust other carbohydrate sources to stay within your target blood sugar ranges. Good news is, there are alternatives that are lower in starch and carbohydrates. Things like green beans, broccoli, spinach, and asparagus can be eaten in more generous amounts without significantly impacting your blood glucose. So, while peas do offer nutritional benefits, their starchy nature means they should be eaten in moderation, with careful attention to portion sizes and your overall carbohydrate intake to help keep that blood sugar stable. 4. Carrots. In excess or certain preparations. Next up, let's talk about carrots, specifically when consumed in excess or in certain preparations. Carrots are widely known for their rich beta-carotene content and other health benefits, right? For many people, they're a go-to healthy snack. However, how you eat carrots can really change their impact on your blood sugar levels. This makes them a vegetable that people with diabetes need to be mindful of, especially when it comes to quantity and how they're prepared. Now, raw carrots have a relatively low glycemic index, somewhere around 16 to 35, but their GI can go up when they're cooked. Boiling or mashing carrots can raise their GI to 40 to 50, or even higher. This happens because the cooking process breaks down the cell walls, making the sugars inside more readily available for your body to absorb. The main worry with carrots really comes up when you eat them in large amounts or in certain processed forms, like carrot juice. You see, juicing carrots concentrates their natural sugars and, importantly, removes most of their beneficial fiber. A single glass of carrot juice can pack the carbohydrate equivalent of several whole carrots. This can lead to a rapid and significant spike in your blood sugar. Why? Because the fiber in whole carrots helps to slow down sugar absorption, and that benefit is lost when carrots are juiced. So while a whole raw carrot is a healthy snack, carrot juice can be just as problematic as other sugary drinks when it comes to managing blood sugar. For individuals managing diabetes, eating whole carrots in moderation is generally safe and actually beneficial. A small to medium-sized raw carrot, or a modest serving of cooked carrots as part of a balanced meal, is unlikely to cause major blood sugar problems for most people. The fiber content in whole carrots helps you feel full and slows down glucose uptake. However, if you're relying on large portions of cooked carrots or regularly drinking carrot juice, that can contribute to higher blood sugar readings. So it's really crucial to understand the difference between the vegetable in its whole form and its processed or overly consumed versions. Knowing this distinction allows you to enjoy the nutritional benefits of carrots without accidentally messing with your blood sugar control. The key here, as with so many foods in a diabetic diet, really comes down to moderation and mindful preparation. 5. Beets. And number 5 on our list is beets. Beets, with their beautiful vibrant color and earthy sweetness, are packed with vitamins, minerals, and beneficial plant compounds like nitrates, which can be great for heart health. However, they also contain a moderate amount of carbohydrates and have a medium glycemic index. This means they can affect your blood sugar levels if you're not careful with them, especially if you have diabetes. Cooked beets typically have a GI of around 60 to 65, which puts them in that medium category. This tells us they can cause a more noticeable rise in blood sugar compared to non-starchy vegetables like leafy greens or broccoli. The natural sugars in beets, which are mostly sucrose, are what contribute to their carbohydrate content. A half-cup serving of cooked sliced beets has about 8 to 10 grams of carbohydrates. Now, this amount might be manageable as part of a balanced meal plan, but the risks go up if you eat beets in excess. Large servings can really add to the overall carbohydrate load of your meal, and that could lead to elevated blood glucose levels. Another common way people consume beets is in juice form. And just like carrot juice, beet juice concentrates the sugars and gets rid of the fiber. This means drinking beet juice can cause a much quicker and higher spike in your blood sugar than eating whole beets. So while beet juice is often marketed for its health benefits, if you're managing diabetes, that high sugar concentration without the fiber to buffer it makes it a less ideal choice. So how can you include beets safely in a diabetic diet? Moderation is absolutely essential. Enjoying a small serving of whole, cooked, or even raw grated beets as part of a meal that also includes protein, healthy fats, and plenty of non-starchy, fiber-rich vegetables can help lessen their impact on your blood sugar. Pairing beets with foods that are high in fiber can also slow down the absorption of sugar. For example, adding sliced beets to a large salad with mixed greens, nuts, and a lean protein source is a much better approach than eating a large portion of beets by themselves or drinking beet juice. By being really mindful of portion sizes and how you prepare them, you can still enjoy the nutritional advantages of beets without negatively affecting your blood sugar control. So, to wrap things up, while vegetables are undeniably vital for our overall health and for managing diabetes effectively, it's pretty clear that not all vegetables affect blood sugar in the same way. Certain types, especially the starchy ones, and specific ways of preparing them can indeed make blood sugar control more challenging if you're not approaching them with awareness. The big takeaways here are moderation, making informed choices, and being mindful about preparation. These are all paramount. If you found this discussion helpful, Please do share it with friends and family who are also managing diabetes. We encourage you to subscribe for more evidence-based nutrition tips. And of course, feel free to comment below with your own experiences or any questions you might have about managing blood sugar with vegetables.